everybody. Hi, Mighty family. It's Mighty Mary here, and I'm welcoming you to our little holiday fun where we have a treat in store for you. We're going to be making some ginger snap cookies today, and we're going to make them a little bit more healthy. This is, it's a time of year where we might splurge on something really unhealthy or sugar or fat or a lot of carbs. We took a ginger snap recipe and we're using gluten-free flour today. We're still adding some butter. We substituted the refined sugar for coconut sugar, and we're just going to make a little bit healthier version of a ginger snap, but it won't be any less yummy. So let's get started on making some yummy gingerbread cookies. Preheat your oven to 350. I'm going to use a convection bake oven, so I'm going to do 325. So just depending on what you're using, do that. I'll do that with you right now. And then I'll go over all the list of yummy ingredients with you. Okay, sorry, my oven likes to talk as it's preheating, but just pay no attention to the thing over there. Okay, so for these cookies, we're gonna use, of course, some, the base of it is gonna be some butter, about 1.5 cups. So it's 1.5 sticks of butter. If you're like me and you didn't quite soften your butter in time, then you can take that butter, place it in a parchment. I did it today, and pounded it with my mallet, with my meat mallet, to get it nice and thin. It softens so quickly that way. So I have my butter ready to go. I'm gonna add some coconut sugar. I use this golden coconut sugar. It has like a brown sugar look and feel. You can see in here. It's almost like brown sugar, very rich, flavorful. And I reduced it to 3/4 cup. You could do 1/2 cup to 3/4. My husband loved the 1/2 cup sugar version. My kids wanted a little more, so I went 3/4 in some of my attempts. To that, we're gonna add some molasses, an egg. We're going to add some spices. So we have a blend here. It's a little bit of cloves, a lot of cinnamon, and a little bit of powdered ginger. So the combination of the spices will give this cookie all the gusto it needs. There's going to be one other spice ingredient I'll get to. We're also going to use 2 teaspoons of baking soda. So if you want the exact measurements on the ginger and the baking soda and the 2 teaspoons on the baking soda, on this I did a combination, 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. To that I added 1/4 teaspoons of cloves. And on the ginger I just did 1 teaspoon because we're going to add fresh ginger as well. And then the last ingredient is my gluten-free flour. I did 2 cups of gluten-free flour. Sometimes I like to measure it out in grams. And I think that's all of our ingredients except for one little superstar. We've got some fresh ginger. So I thought I'd show you how I prepare that right here. It's fresh out of the freezer. And to that I take a little, where's my little tool? Oh, I have it right over here drying. Okay, so I have my little grater. You can use a box grater or anything with a fine whole grate. And when I do my fresh ginger, this recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of fresh ginger. I'm just gonna take that. I peeled it a little bit, but you don't even have to do that. And I just grate it, and it comes off so easy. And I'm gonna get about 2 teaspoons that I'm gonna add, or get ready to add to my recipe. Okay, so I'm gonna get started by, I'll keep making this, by adding some ingredients to my mixer. I have the butter, that's the first ingredient. I had it wrapped in parchment paper because it was softening while it flattened. And this really helps for it to become soft. You can see it's quite soft. I'm gonna use a spatula. I let mine soften a little bit too long. The last batch I made, I just did this for about 20 minutes and it just flaked right off, but we'll get there. Bear with me.
And as a reminder, if you are someone who's vegan or vegetarian or just trying to use, more plant-based ingredients, you can of course use the plant-based butter. It would just be the same exact amount. So there are some modifications there if that's kind of your route.
Yeah, that's great. A lot of recipes I saw talked about using coconut oil too. I didn't try that. The consistency of this cookie is important to remember, so I had to kind of, I stuck with the regular butter to not change too many things around. So I'm going to get this butter going with the coconut sugar. So that's just like any cookie recipe, right? You're creaming together your butter or your fat with your sugar. So it's going to get a little noisy. I have maybe the world's oldest mixer. It likes to talk. All my appliances like that. So, and then while I'm doing this, I like to pause it and really get in there with a spatula and scrape the sides down. It makes a big difference when you're creaming butters and sugars together. I have this like nice thin little spatula. What was that?
I was going to say, to talk about the sugar as well. We obviously replaced it, we want to make sure we're avoiding like the refined added sugar, but we replaced it with coconut sugar because it's got a lower glycemic index. So, it's not going to spike your blood sugar as much. It also retains a lot of its nutrients rather than like refined sugar and high fructose corn syrup. So any really sugar substitute would work though, if you prefer to use monk fruit or a stevia option, just making sure that you're paying attention to the conversions because they might be a little different. But I believe, Mary, you used a 1-to-1 conversion for this, correct?
Well, the recipe that we found originally had a combination of refined sugar and brown sugar, and it was a total of about 1 1/4 cups. I just used the coconut, and we modified it down to 1/2 cup to 3/4 cup, depending on how sweet versus how spicy you like your gingerbread or your ginger snap. So it's just creaming. While that's creaming, I'm going to grate a little bit more ginger because then all the players are going to go into this. I like a lot of ginger. It calls for 2 teaspoons. It gives it that nice kind of tangy or spicy taste by adding the ginger. And I know there's a ton of healthy properties in ginger, right?
Yeah, so using fresh ginger is always kind of preferred because it has higher amounts of gingerol in it, which is really good for anti-inflammatory purposes, aiding and kind of decreasing your LDL cholesterol. So again, don't rely on fresh ginger to do that. Of course, there's other things that need to happen for that to happen, but it does have a lot of good benefits, as well as like fighting good bacteria. It's good for your stomach as well. So lots of great benefits of adding that fresh ginger to this recipe.
Yeah. Now my butter sugar mixture, it's starting to get a little bit, I don't know if you can see it in that shot, a little bit fluffy. And a lot of times it says you want it to get, that yellowy color, but because we're using the coconut sugar, it's definitely a more light brown that it turns. But you want to look for that fluffy light texture to that. And now to that, I'm going to start adding some more good ingredients. One is my molasses. I have 1/3 cup of molasses.
And here you could also use honey or maple syrup. I think the molasses for this recipe specifically gives that good flavor, but you could always use, if you really wanted to, like a different like honey maple syrup kind of thing as well.
I think this is the last thing I would sub out in this recipe because it really gives it, makes it a true, gives it that great flavor. And I'm also going to add my egg. Sometimes I live on the edge and crack it right in, but today I'm going to crack it into this little ramekin I have. I like to get it going and then scrape it down a couple times. So. Okay, I'm going to give this one last little scrape. It's really coming together nicely. Yeah, nice and mixed up. And then we're ready for some spices, and then lastly the flour. So not using this butter since I already used our other. I'll show you what we got left. We got our fresh ginger, we've got our spice mix, and our baking soda. So I'm gonna turn this down. I'm going to crank it down so I can really distribute the spices well, and the baking soda, and the fresh ginger. Grab my spatula for that. Scrape it all in there. It'll distribute really well. And last but not least is the flour. So it says to go 1/2 cup at a time. I'm gonna get this going a little bit, just on low. And then I just kind of eyeball the 1/2 cup. I let a little bit in, let it mix, and then go a little bit more. You can stop it and uncrank it if you want. And this we want to mix just until it's combined.
And keep in mind, you can use different flours, of course. We've always talked about the benefits of all the different flours. So for this purpose, we used just a gluten-free flour. But of course, oat flour is going to be kind of preferred following that. If you're just, not too carb conscious, but just want that nutrient benefit. And then, of course, if you're carb conscious or following a keto diet, almond flour is going to be your best bet. But almond flour is more calorically dense. So, the flour really depends on what your personal goals and preferences are. But there's a lot of different, options that you can do for that.
Yeah, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with almond flour because I love the low carbs, but I find it a little bit difficult to bake with. But I did try this recipe a few ways and combined almond flour with the gluten-free and maybe a little bit of oat flour, and just I still did 1-to-1, 2 1/4 cups total, but I kind of mixed it up a little bit. Okay, this is looking really good. I like to do the final mix by hand. So I'm going to pull this out. Who wants to lick the batter?
I volunteer.
I loved licking the beater off the batter when I was a kid. And my mom had that hand mixer, so two beaters on it and just two kids. I always wondered what my neighbors with 6 kids across the street were doing when their mom made cookies. That'd be a real battle, right? So here's my final. Yeah, doesn't that look good? It is a bit sticky. What I found I love to do is to take my batter, once I get it just, combined together, and dump it into a bowl, a glass bowl, and then from there I can let it get in the fridge at least 30 minutes, and then I can use my ice cream scoop to put it on the sheets. I did make a set of this batter earlier and I have it in the fridge, so I'm going to show you with that. Okay, so I got this one. This one actually did that combination of flours that I was alluding to earlier. So, and this is my best friend here. I'm going to use this ice cream scoop, and I'm going to do a 1/2 scoop. And now here's the part, Lindsay, you're probably going to get mad at me for this, but I really found just a little tiny, I have a couple tablespoons of refined sugar in here. It's actually organic cane. I'm going to drop it in, roll it just a little. There we go. And voila, that's my cookie. So I'm going to do that, as many cookies as I want to make. I like to do kind of a 1/2 scoop with this ice cream scoop, and then I'm only putting the sugar on the 1/2, so hopefully I'm not breaking too many rules there, Lindsay.
There's no rules. Well, and really, a good thing.
It's a treat, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's the good thing to keep in mind about this is it's still a treat. So by no means is this a green recipe, right? We're just showing you some swaps that you can make to make it a little bit better. But ultimately, this is still going to be a treat. This is still going to be something that you want to enjoy in moderation and mindfully. But, you can make a few swaps to make it a little bit healthier. And of course, as Mary's putting the sugar on top, that's optional. If you want to indulge a little bit, go for it. If you want to do without it, perfect.
They just tend to crackle a little bit better. But so these two are the ones out of the batter I just made, and these two are the ones that were refrigerated. So you can see if this upper row is like a refrigerated batch that I left regular, and then this is a non-refrigerated batch. And what I did one extra step there. I took just a flat glass and I pressed and this really helped to make them flatten if you like a flatter, more crunchy cookie. I'm going to pop those in my oven, and maybe you can pop yours in, but I'll show you the finished product that I already have baked. So this recipe you bake it at 350 for 15 minutes. A little bit long time for a cookie. So usually it's often 10 to 12 or something like that. But I think because it's a ginger snap and we want that crunchier cookie, that's what it ends up being. So here we go. You can see on these I just baked this morning, it's kind of soft, it breaks apart, but really good flavor. That ginger in there comes right out. Delish. And then these ended up really good in a different way, like a flatter, a little bit more crunchy cookie. You can hear the crunch, right? So, and this was my batch that I didn't refrigerate and I flattened down. You can scoop them on and then just pop the tray in your freezer for 5 minutes if you need to do it quickly. Okay. Anyways, I wish you all a very happy holiday season, a great, as we head into this kind of first weekend that leads up to all the fun, hopefully with a little bit of fun baking and feeling good about yourself. Yay, great, thanks for coming.
Thanks, everybody.